Hey guys, for the holiday season, I thought I would review a couple of Christmas films. But in true me fashion, as you can tell, I like slightly spooky things. So I thought, why not review horror Christmas films? So I typed in horror Christmas films into Google and I found 5 Christmas films. Now, don't ask me quite why this is a Christmas film, but we'll get into why I think it's a Christmas film in a bit. The first film that I want to talk about, which is one of the ones that comes up when you type in Christmas horror films, is the film Dead of Night. So that you guys know, this video obviously will have spoilers in. No, if you don't want spoilers for the film, then I will put either a timestamp on screen here, or vaguely, I think, when you'll be able to watch it, just my opinion on the film, or it will definitely be in the description of a timestamp of when you can just see my opinion of the film, rather than of what the film is about. The film starts off with this guy driving to a house. Craig is an architect whom Foley has invited to his home to consult on some renovations. So the people who were there don't know each other, sorry. They are all there just on a coincidence because they all got invited to this house to look at it because I think they're going to sell it. And when he gets there, he basically says that it's him and 4 other people, I believe. And he basically says that he had an awful dream that started off in this exact same manner. And he kept getting deja vu. And one of them happens to be, I think, like a therapist or someone like that. And he's very disbelieving of this, and he just says it's just coincidence and it's all fine, because the guy initially says that there are 6 people that are meant to be in the room, and he says, but there's only 5 of us, so automatically your deja vu was wrong. And he says a couple of things that he says he thinks he's worried are going to happen, and the guy says, don't worry, because they probably won't happen, you're just nervous. It goes into how a couple of the other people have had weird, almost supernatural events that have happened to them. And they're trying to help this one guy and trying to like soothe his nerves and be like, look, we reckon this happened because of this, but here's something that's supernatural that probably just a big coincidence and stuff like that. And this one guy was saying about how when he was a race car driver, he got into a really bad accident and ended up in hospital. And one night when he was in hospital, he woke up, saw a hearse outside, and the driver looked at him and said, room for one more. He was like, it's a bit weird. Went back to bed, noticed that the time was a bit off because he remembered it being 3:15, but it was apparently only like 10 to 10 or something according to his clock. I think he'd been allowed out of hospital at this point, and he was waiting for his bus, and he checks the time to see when it is, and it says 3:15, and he's like, yeah, remembered the dream but didn't think anything of it. Went to go get on the bus, and the bus driver looked at him. It was the same guy that he saw driving the hearse, and the bus driver said, room inside for one more. Guy freaked out, didn't get on the bus. It was driving and a truck pulled out of nowhere and the truck almost hit it, but the bus steered and went off of the cliff, and everyone inside died. And he says he doesn't know why on earth he saw it, if it was real, if it was hallucination or what, but it really, really freaked him out. It then goes back to them and they're like, oh yeah, the psychologist tries to think of a logical explanation as to why he had this dream. They come to the conclusion that he probably was just a bit fearful still because of his almost death that had happened. The guy saying that he still doesn't like the fact that they're all there and things like that, but they're all trying to comfort him and saying, don't worry, we're all okay. We'll try and break his deja vu by doing all these various different things, but it never seems to work. She has a weird story of when she was playing sardines in her friend's house, I think it was, or in like this like random mansion kind of house, and she's meant to hide, and she hides, and the guy who's trying to get with her finds her and tells her a creepy story about how this girl murdered her younger brother, and they're like joking about, trying to spook each other, and she runs away from him and finds another hiding spot and finds a room and finds this boy crying. And he says the name, I can't remember what the name is, but he says the name, and she's like, oh, I don't remember you. And he said that he was crying because his sister really hates him. And she tries to soothe him and says, it's okay, we'll put you to bed, I'll go down. If you don't want to carry on playing the game, that's okay, you're obviously very upset. And she hears, when she puts him to bed, she hears everyone calling for her because they can't find her anywhere. And she comes out and she's like, oh, sorry, I was just putting a boy to bed. Do any of you know this guy's name? And the guy that was trying to get with her says, so you knew about the story already? And she says, what do you mean the story? And it's like, of the boy who got killed by the sister, because they had the same name. I reckon, because this is meant to be a Christmas party that it's at, I think that's the only bit in the film that means it is a Christmas film. So it then goes to another lady saying that she once bought a mirror for her husband, and the husband kept saying that he saw a different room in the mirror, and he kept going a bit odd whenever he saw this mirror. He did not like this mirror. She made him realise that it was just a normal mirror, there wasn't particularly anything wrong with the mirror, and he firmly believed that, but he, after a little while, then kept seeing stuff in the mirror. Now, she saw in one of the charity shops or something, the charity shop that she had bought the mirror from, she went in, she queried the guy about where the mirror was from, and he told her that the mirror belonged to a guy who had some sort of accident causing him to limited mobility. His wife would go out, and for normal reasons, like going to go get the shopping and stuff, he kept accusing her of affairs, and one day he apparently strangled the wife to death because he thought that she was cheating, and then proceeded to cut his throat in front of the mirror. And she then went home and told the husband, and the husband tried to strangle her, but she broke the mirror in time, and he can't remember anything about it. He was just confused as to why the mirror was broken, things like that. And then it goes on to the next story, saying about how these two guys were trying to win this woman's affection by playing golf, and they said the winner of the golf would be able to get with the girl, marry the girl. And they played, and the loser of the golf got sad, basically, and drowned himself in the river. And ever since that day, he's been haunting his friend. And he said that he's been trying to leave them alone, but he can't remember how to, ghost disappear. And he keeps trying all these different things to try and make himself disappear, and it doesn't work. And it comes to the wedding night when they're going to consummate the marriage. annoyed because the ghost has to be with like a meter within range of him. So when he goes to have special time with his lady friend, obviously the ghost appears next to them and kind of ruins the mood. And he says to him, well, what have you tried? And he says, oh yeah, I've tried all of this, and does like various hand things. And he says, well, try this one maybe. Tries it, and the guy who didn't die disappears. And the ghost is like, what? And he hears the lady call from the other room saying, I'm waiting, or something along those lines. And he goes and consummates the marriage for him. It then cuts to the group of people because it's like a funny ghost story, so they're all laughing and being like, haha, you know, well done, you got us good, we thought you were gonna actually tell a spooky one. And it wasn't, it was a funny one. And they then asked the psychologist, and they're like, oh, I imagine that you've probably never had anything spooky in your life, which is why you probably don't believe in supernatural things. And he said he's not, apart from one time where he met a person who had shot someone and he blamed it on his ventriloquist dummy. And he says he doesn't know why, and he goes into the story about how this guy apparently was super attached to this dummy, and the dummy almost seemed, there was occasions where it sounded like the dummy was talking rather than ventriloquism. The guy got very, very protective of this dummy and things like that, and he would speak through the dummy, but almost like different thoughts, and not necessarily thoughts that you'd say from like a dummy perspective. Guy got very, very protective and basically went a bit insane with this dummy, and a guy stole it from him to try and help him get over this dummy obsession. And he went in, freaked out that he had stolen it, so shot him. Thankfully, the guy didn't die, and they went, but they were trying to figure out why he shot him, because it's such a drastic thing. Yes, he stole from him, but it was such a drastic thing to do. They were trying to get out why he did it and these answers from him, and he didn't have any, so they gave him the dummy and they saw him have this conversation with the dummy, and he ended up basically beating the dummy until it wasn't a dummy anymore. It was just pieces of like broken plastic and stuff on the floor. They then didn't have any other way that they could think of to get this guy to say what he had done, because he was in hospital because he'd been through quite traumatic thing, and he just wasn't speaking or anything. And they got the guy that he had shot in to speak with him, and when they went in to speak with him, he basically said in the ventriloquist doll's voice, like, hi there, or something. And it then cuts back to the group of people, and he said that he doesn't believe in the supernatural. He doesn't think there's anything supernatural about it. He thinks that it was some sort of personality disorder, but it spooked him, and he doesn't quite, although it makes sense in a scientific fashion, it's still a very eerie case. The very, very beginning of the film, the guy said, when your glasses breaks, bad stuff will happen. And the guy's glasses breaks, and he says, that's not good. And so everyone else leaves the room, and it's just this main guy and the psychologist sat in this room together. And he says, I don't know how to tell you about these delusions you've been having. And he says, that he basically just says that he doesn't understand it either. He doesn't know how to explain it or anything like that, and just says, why did your glasses have to break, and then strangles him to death. he then freaks out and he almost teleports to the house that the Christmas party was in. And they are like, he's got to go hide. And he says, I'll go hide. He runs up and it cuts to him looking at the mirror and he asks if he can hide in the mirror. And they say, yeah, but I don't know why you want to hide in there. He then jumps into the mirror almost and gets transported through the mirror into this room. He then gets put onto a table that has a ventriloquist dummy. And they're asking him questions of why did he murder someone? Why did he commit the murders? Things like that. And he's like, I don't know. And all of the people around him grab him and are leading him to a prison cell. And the guard says, oh, room inside for one more. And they throw him in. He lands on the bed. This is the freakiest moment of the film, I personally think. If I'm able to, I'll get up video or a picture or something of this scene because it chills me. He looks over and on the chair is a ventriloquist dummy. The ventriloquist dummy, whilst everyone is holding on to the bars and looking through, the ventriloquist dummy stands up and walks over to him and almost goes onto him with its face about this far away from him. And just does typical creepy things why did you, asking him why he committed murder and stuff. And the guy obviously freaks out and wakes up and says that he had an awful, awful dream. He can't quite remember it, he just knows it was bad. He gets a phone call saying could he go and meet up at this house so that he can say his opinion on it. He'll be meeting a couple of people there, and then the film ends with him driving down the same road to the same house, driving up to it. Dead of Night is a film that was brought out in 1945. It is fully in black and white. It is an hour and 43 minutes long, and it is a PG. For a film that is, as of recording this video, it is nearly 80 years old. It would be 76 years old. It's spooky. It's really creepy. It's just it's I don't even know what because it's not got anything overly spooky in, but for some reason it's just a very creepy film. It's not particularly dated, you don't watch it and think, oh, you can tell it's a bit of an older film. The only real reason I think that you can tell it's an older film is purely, to be honest, purely the way that they dress and the fact that it's in black and white. Other than that, I don't think you'd really tell. Effects in it are really good. There is a scene that I honestly don't even know how they do it, and I think it's a very clever scene because it would have taken a lot of effort to make look that good. There is another scene as well that I think would be easily done realistically, but it would have been, for the time period, it would have been very clever how they did it. Because although nowadays they'd probably be able to CGI it wasn't CGI back then. Yeah, I would highly recommend this film. Highly recommend it. So this isn't really a spoiler, so I'm going to say it, but basically it goes off of, I think it's 4 or 5 friends telling each other ghost stories. 5 friends telling ghost stories. And one of the people who tells a ghost story isn't the best actor. The ghost story, it's just it could be so, like, there's no raw emotion. But to be honest, that's the only bit that I'd say is bad. The rest of it is excellent. It's a very good film. The other reason as to why I think this is a Christmas film, and why you shouldn't get mad at me, because I'm pretty sure it's a Christmas film, is because in one of the ghost stories, it's set at Christmas. They are having a Christmas party, and that is the basis of one of the ghost stories. Which is why I think it came up when I typed in Christmas horror films, because there's one scene where it's Christmas. I think it also came out within like 2 months before Christmas. I think it came out in September or something, or November or something like that. I think it came out nearish Christmas season. Next week is going to be a similar review on a film that is, I don't quite know why it's a Christmas film based off of it, but I will give my opinions why I think it's a Christmas film in the next video. But stick around because I'm going to review Gremlins. So if you want to see me review Gremlins, subscribe. Like this video as well, so that I know whether or not to make more videos like this. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I can take this stuff off. Oh! Be free, hair! Be free! Oh, that's satisfying. Okay.